It is my great privilege to introduce today's speaker, Karim Bardeesy. Karim is the Executive Director of the Dais, TMU's newly launched Public Policy and Leadership Institute, connecting people to the ideas and power we need to build a more inclusive, innovative, prosperous Canada. Karim is a public service leader who has worked for a stronger democracy, a more educated and engaged population, and a better public policy throughout his professional career. In 2017, he co-founded the Leadership Lab at TMU, taking on the additional role of Executive Director of the Brookfield Institute earlier this year. Karim also co-teaches a hugely popular undergraduate liberal elective, Making the Future, for which he has won 2 teaching awards from TMU's Faculty of Arts. Karim was previously Deputy Principal Secretary for Ontario Premier Kathleen Wynne and served as Executive Director of Policy for Premiers Wynne and Dalton McGuinty. He has worked as a politics and policy columnist for the Toronto Star, an editorial writer and business reporter at the Globe and Mail, and as an editorial assistant at Slate magazine. He also taught leadership at the University of Toronto School of Public Policy and Governance, and Karim holds a Bachelor of Arts from McGill University and a Master of Public Policy from Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government. Earlier this year, Karim delivered the keynote address at the FIAS George Vary Innovation Conference. His words that evening inspired all those present, myself included, and I look forward to hearing his thoughts and advice for our graduates now. Students, as you prepare to take the next steps in your careers, I hope Karim's words will cause you to reflect on everything you have learned during your time with us, the experiences you have shared with each other, and to consider how you will make your mark on the world.
Yeah. Thank you, Dean Duver, Chancellor Fukakusa, President and Vice Chancellor, and Professor of Civil Engineering, Lashmi, Provost Yannicito Provenzano, Dean Duver, and other deans, esteemed colleagues, representatives who join us on stage, families, friends, honored guests, and most importantly, graduands, because the graduate diploma is not yet in your hands. It will be soon. That was a very generous introduction, but as the son of an Egyptian immigrant who dropped out of math in my 3rd year of undergrad, you've already succeeded beyond my family's wildest dreams for me, or at least their initial dreams anyway. You know, in my own education for a long time, I felt like I was defined by some numbers, 3 numbers. 3.1, that was my GPA. 4 zeros along the way, 4 Fs. 2, that was the number of times I dropped out. And 10, that's how many years it took me to finally cross the stage and get my Bachelor of Arts degree. But 20 years later, here I am. Now, in your time here, have there been numbers that have been hovering over your head or in your head? Numbers that held you back? That you were worried might define you? Numbers that made you feel like you were less than someone else? Think about those numbers now. But guess what? Today, none of that matters because you're here. This morning, everyone is an equal, everyone is a winner, everyone is crossing the stage this dais as a graduate of Toronto Metropolitan University. If you were all bits, as in bits and bytes, well, everyone's bit would be switched to a 1. Sorry, a little electrical engineering joke there. And I'm happy to report that we, here in these stands, are putting our trust in you, graduates, striding across the stage to imagine and build the Canada that we want, the life that you deserve. And I firmly believe that is possible. And I think that's why I, the math dropout with other battle scars that the Dean failed to mention in his generous introduction, that's why I was asked to address you today. Each of us has a special power. Maybe we haven't discovered it yet. I think the reason I was asked because of my special power is to maybe help groups of young people see that an improbable future is possible. And if you don't believe that, I want you to show it's been done before. Not by individuals, but by groups, very much like this group today. Look up and around for a moment. Look up to the rafters, look to the sides here. Look at this building. What was it called again? What was it called again? Maple Leaf Gardens. Maple Leaf Gardens. You saw the photos as you walked in. This building was imagined and built during the Great Depression, built in 5 months over 90 years ago. And this building was built for people, mostly men, with a different connection to this country. It was a palace for hockey, for Elvis and the Beatles. A lot happened here, many beautiful things, some awful things. But when the builders of this place moved on down the street, people in our university community joined with others to imagine and build something new here. A place for all of us. A place where we're communicating our trust in you today as graduates. More recently, another improbable future led by Indigenous peoples and joined by others was brewing. A growing number of members of our community had lost trust in the original namesake of this university. It took an act of supreme imagination, a willingness to build, led by Professor Mattamy, the Chancellor, and many of you here today, to turn that university, something that had been imagined and built by others, into Toronto Metropolitan University, whose name adorns your diplomas today. Now, trust isn't a one-way relationship. I tell you to trust me, and you must trust. Trust can be broken and lost. But when that happens, the answer isn't to trust everyone less, to close in or tear down. It's to trust differently. So many times in our history, when trust has been broken or lost, new things were imagined or created. New groups of people came together to gain trust back for everyone. And I'm telling you, 2023 graduating engineering students, you can be at the center of that. To find trust again and to imagine and build differently. You can do this in your work, whether as professional engineers, entrepreneurs, change makers in your community, for our country, for Canada. Not only can you do this, you will do this. For, I think, two special reasons that are true of this group and no other group. You and your classmates graduating this afternoon and no one else. Here's the first reason. First, no other profession, no other course of study comes with so much built-in trust. Trust to imagine and to build. After all, after you add up all the learning you did in your classes, in your labs, in your internships, online and in person, isn't that what engineering is? For us, for society? Knowledge and experience that tells us we can trust you to imagine and build the world around us? That's what you've been getting with this diploma. That's the first reason. The second reason that we can invest our trust in you is that no other cohort has gone through this university, or any university, in the way you have, and none may ever again. Starting normal, then interrupted, and now, well, whatever we're calling our new normal. Now, let's think back to that interruption, and for most of us, it started in March 2020. What was it like? Think back. What emotions did you feel during circumstances that felt, well, if not impossible, then close to it? Who felt flat, lonely, grieving, with no agency, no control? Who felt damaged? Who maybe carry some of this damage with them today? When I did Zoom or phone office hours with my students, when students were huddled in a closet or at a cafe, anywhere where they could get an internet connection, that's what I heard, that's what I saw. We've all been damaged. But you are not broken. You are not broken You're here today. You know something about resilience. You've lived it, and you've learned it because you're engineering students. You know about resilient systems. You've shown your resilience, your anti-fragility. And everyone here today has a reason to be proud of that, and every family member today is a proud family member because you've demonstrated that. You didn't just show it by absorbing it and taking it. You did a few things too. Sometimes you had to be a pain in the ass. I said, sorry, that word. And I see some of the graduates here who specifically acted in certain ways to get what was their right. Sometimes you did it by reveling in the small joys, a walk, a game, a good book. Sometimes a lot of students stumbled across a new hack, a new community, a new connection, something that made online learning not only more bearable, but maybe even better. In other words, you got here by embracing your humanity and the humanity around you during a situation that felt inhuman. And I heard those stories in office hours too. Looking beyond, it wasn't just your experience. You saw how the systems that were there for you, supposed to be there for you, worked or failed. You learned who and what you could count on, and what and who let you down. And now you're on the cusp of entering a world where you can, you will, you must demand better and help us deliver. I've had the pleasure of working with changemakers for many years now, helping them imagine and build a better community. And here's a little secret for you. The most effective leaders aren't the individual heroes. You know, the ones who seem to like they've arrived fully formed and they figured it all out? Some people may seem like that, but they don't exist. Some might appear to be individuals who overcame obstacles by their sheer force of will. And yes, there are some people like that, including some of you today, all of you today. But real change comes from groups of effective leaders forged in a collective fire that gives them a shared sense of what to build, whom to trust, and how to imagine a different future. Graduates of 2023, you are now forged together. You are a very remarkable, very distinct championship team worthy of this palace. And today, tables have turned. We're going to cast our lot in with you and put our trust in this team. So I'm going to end with 3 numbers. Not numbers to hold you back, not numbers to make you feel bad about yourself, but numbers to keep in focus as we imagine and build a better country. The first is 2035. In that year, Canada will be 168 years old, and approximately 1 Canadian in 4 will be 65 years old or older. What country are we building for them? What country are you building for them? Are we going to just leave that to the nursing students? The second number is 1.5 million. That's how many homes Ontario wants to build in the next decade, so that we can once imagine that most basic right to a home for you and your family, should you be allowed to at least imagine having a family, as my wife and I have been blessed to have with Jasmine and Patrick, who are here today. How will we build those homes? Just by muscling through? Just by leaving it to the urban planners? The third number is 2 trillion. That's how much in Canadian dollars in investment it's estimated we'll need to make Canada carbon neutral by 2050. How will we get that capital? How will we deploy it? Do you want to leave it to the business students? Or God forbid, the politicians? Can't let those people do that by themselves. We need this team. Those 3 numbers, they're hanging over us in the best possible way because they're a challenge to trust differently, to stand side by side, shoulder to shoulder, with you and your team and your families, forged in this fire, if you're willing to trust us. And if you don't believe that, if you don't believe that we can tackle these challenges together with this team, just know that I believe it. In time, even as we stumble, we will see this day, June 22nd, as the day we pledged to imagine and build a better country. on a new foundation of trust with a new team forged in fire to imagine and build this great country. Thank you very much.